Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel or welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to look at the settings sheet. In the previous videos, we solely worked on survey sheet and choices sheet. The survey sheet is important, but it's not compulsory. It's a crucial component of the XLS form. It allows you to define important parameters and also control behaviors and also some metadata for your form. So here are the basic columns on the settings sheet. We have the form title. The form title is a column where you specify the title of your form. By default, if you validate your form, it takes the name of the Excel file if you don't specify a form title. But this is where you specify the name of the form, which will appear to the user. The next column is the form ID. The form ID is the column that gives your form a unique identifier. If you have multiple forms, they could have the same name, but form ID ensures that you only update that particular form in subsequent versions. So if I have this particular form and I want to update it, then the form ID has to be the same, but the form title could change. With version, it's where you specify. It's very crucial for tracking changes. If you work with anything that changes over time, you would want to track the changes that happen. So the version column specify the version, and it's very significant. You can use a number where you increase it in increment of the changes you make, but you can also use other things as you wish. Then the instance name. So instance name is the column that defines a custom name for each submission. So each submission is called an instance, and then you can give it a particular name, which is going to be defined dynamically by your form or maybe statically, but mostly you use a particular combination of 2 or 3 parameters within your form or more, and then it it gives you the instance name. The default language. So if you design your forms in multiple languages, you can have a default language. You can adopt this for multiple work plans, and then you can use your form ID to specify them. An example is if you have the same form that is used in the northern part of Nigeria, for example, you could have a form name and then underscore ID, which says NG North, and then the default language could be something like Hausa or Fulani. And then if you have the same form that is administered in the southern part of the country, they could give the default language Yoruba, Igbo, or any major language that is spoken where you're administering your form. For form style, it lets you customize the appearance of your form. You use it to apply sometimes CSS styling and specify the layout and preference. Most of the settings here work on mobile forms the best, but for style, it works for Enketo. So we're going to walk around with this to see how it appears on Enketo version. And then once we move to deploy our form to ODK Central, and then we begin to see how it appears on mobile forms, we're able to see how these columns work. And then you have other columns like public key, where you specify if you're concerned with security. That's where you specify your key, your encryption key, and then it encrypts and secures your data, and you're only able to view the submissions within the form or the form once you know the key. So we're not going to look at that at the public key here. As you can see, it's not here. So I'm going to start with form title. So the form title is going to be something like Mobile Forms Guru Video, for example. And for form ID, I'm going to write MFG underscore vid. Your form ID also works similarly to how your name column works on both survey and choices. It can't have a space, and it must start with a letter on an underscore. So that's why I have MFG underscore vid. I can't have space in between. And then version. So the XLX template I'm using by ODK has this interesting version they use. This allows you to very precisely track the changes. So it uses an Excel formula where you take the noun. The noun takes in the date with the time, the hour, the minute, the seconds, and then converts it into a text format. And as you can see here, it gives us something like this. Personally, I don't use the minute and seconds. I only stop at hour and minute, so I'm going to remove that. But you can also leave it as that. You can also use dash to separate them if you want, or full stop. But for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to leave it as this. So it takes the time now, which takes the year, the month, the day, the hour, and the minute, and converts it to a text format. So as you can see, if you're conversant with Excel formula, you see that's what it does. So the text takes in 2 parameters. The first one now takes in the time, at the given moment you made the change, and then it saves it as year with 4 digits. So in our own case, it's going to be 2024. The month, which is July, it's going to be 07. The day, it's going to be 23rd, and then the hour is going to be 18, and the minute is going to be 46. Now, if you want to be more precise, you could add the seconds, but as I said, I'm not going to include that. Now, our instance name is where you specify where you identify your submission specifically. Usually, if you're working with people or with people, you specify their name and their date of birth, for example. So I'm just quickly going to take in one unique item within my form. We're not going to see how it works once we validate, but once we begin deploying our form, we'll see how it works. So I'm going to select one unique thing here. So I'm going to select how many pupils. So I'm going to take first name. So our settings is going to be, our instance name is going to be the first name of the person that filled the form. So I'm just going to leave it as that. So each form is going to be saved with the name of the person. You can add more things using formula where you use concat. We're going to look at that further. And default language, I'm going to leave it blank because we don't have any language. But for style, you have 3 styles you can use that take effect when you're working with Enketo. So in this case, I'm going to write theme grid, and we're going to see how that works. As you can see, we have an error, so we are not able to specify the instance name as first name because the first name is within a repeat group. So we have to do we have to use a particular syntax to achieve that, but we're going to skip that and use another parameter instead. So instead of using something that is within a repeat group, I'm going to use the person's age, or maybe the person's BMI, just for fun. So I'm going to use the person's BMI as the form instance ID. So I'm going to change that. You can look through the documentation or the tutorial within this XLSForm template to see how you're able to reference sub-reference a parameter within a repeat group. So now that I've saved this, I'm going to validate again. Yes. So now once we preview our form, as you can see, the name of my form is now Mobile Forms Guru. If you look through previous videos, the name of our form is going to be XLSForm, but because we've specified a title now, it takes that and gives it a name. Even though we didn't change our file name, as you can see here, it's still XLSForm, but now the form name shows Mobile Forms Guru. So you can change it to anything you want. And as you can see, it takes also a different look. It gives it a grid look. It looks like it's on paper where you would ordinarily print it on an Excel form. So if this is what you wanted to appear on Enketo when people view your form, you can also use theme grid. There are other stylings which I'm going to display on the screen. You can try them and see how they work and how they affect your form and how they change the view of your form on Enketo. As I said, the styling mainly affects how your form is viewed on Enketo, not on ODK Collect or other Collect apps that we're going to use. We're going to begin deploying our forms in the coming videos and see how these changes and these things we do on settings sheet affect how the videos are viewed. So that's it about the settings sheet. We've specified our form title, our form ID. You can change the form title to C. Our form ID is mainly going to come into play once we begin to deploy our form. You're going to see how it appears. And with the version, the good thing is once I make a change, if you keep an eye on this, it says 1848. Once I make any change to the form, it changes the time. So it saves the last time I made a change. So that way, if you send the form to anyone, you're able to understand when you made the edit, and that allows you to put a timeline and understand what something happened. So you can always backtrack if you had a bug or you had an error or anything, and then you're able to understand the version of the form someone used. And with instance name also, we're going to see that in our coming video. Hopefully in the subsequent, within the series, once we begin using, start to use languages and translate our forms, we're going to see how default language affects it. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe. Click on the thumbs up if you liked the video. If you didn't, click the thumbs down, leave us a comment, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much.